I heard the streets have been saying that you guys have been dying for my conspiracy theory content again. So here we are. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. My name is Tonibryanne, and in today's video, we're gonna be discussing the horrors of cruise ships. I'm sure you guys probably know exactly why I came up with this topic, especially with a lot of cruise content going viral. Well, the dangers of cruise content going viral with the new Netflix documentary, Amy Bradley is Missing. But before we get into the absolute gore of cruise ships, you know we have to start off every video with a little bit of positivity. So let's first start off with the quote of the day. Today's quote of the day is, "I let go of the need to be perfect." Today's verse of the day is Samuel chapter 2, verse 2, and it reads, "There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God." Please be sure you guys are subscribed to my channel. Of course, we're on the road to 300,000 subscribers, so all of the love and support would be so crucial right now. Along with subscribing to my channel, Tonibryanne TV is also a podcast. So if you guys want to listen to me while you guys are doing your laundry, on the road, cleaning your house, you can do so. I'm available on all audio streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and that will be linked down below as well. I also have a separate podcast called The Decision Podcast, and it is about how one choice can impact your entire life. My podcast, The Decision, is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you are interested in becoming a guest on The Decision Podcast and you are in the Atlanta area or willing to travel to the Atlanta area, I will also be linking the forum down below. I would absolutely love to interview you and share your story. And yeah, without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's video.
Taking you in this moment.
When you first think of cruises, you just think of absolute fun. Midnight ice cream runs, late night pizza stops, live shows, casinos, dance parties, swimming pools, liquor. It all sounds like absolute vibes. But if you zoom out and actually look just a bit closer, you will quickly realize that cruises aren't just floating hotels. Instead of floating hotels, they're actually floating cities, but in the middle of nowhere. Meaning, once you're out at sea, a lot of lines get very blurry, and some of those lines are the law. Security is weak, laws don't always apply, and if something just so happens to you, there is an extremely high possibility that no one will be held responsible. Now, this isn't just some spooky rumor or conspiracy theory meant to scare you. This is real life. I mean, literally 200 people have gone missing on cruise ships in the past 25 years. Welcome to the absolute dark side of cruising. So, like I stated, over 200 people have gone missing on cruise ships since 2000. And it's not like they just went missing and were found. They literally just vanished in thin air. And that is absolutely terrifying. And it's terrifying for the obvious reasons, but also just with all the mysteries of the sea, thinking that people just vanish while they're in the middle of the ocean, that is what really scares me, because I don't know what goes down underneath the sea. There are lots of theories. I mean, we know a very small percentage of the ocean, okay? We don't know a lot about what's going on down there, and that creeps me out in itself. But if you guys want to see a video on the conspiracy theories of the ocean, I would absolutely love to do that, okay? I am a conspiracy theory queen, so please comment down below if y'all want that, okay? A case that has recently gone viral discussing cruise guests going missing is the Amy Bradley case. Netflix just dropped a 3-part docuseries discussing the strange and bizarre missing case of Amy Bradley. And if you have not seen the documentary or have not heard of her story, here is a little summary of what happened to Amy. Back in 1998, a woman by the name of Amy Bradley went missing while she was on a cruise with her family. At the time, Amy was a 23-year-old graduate student from Virginia, and she had her whole entire life ahead of her. But before she went ahead to go and start that life, she and her family decided to go on a cruise. It was her mom, her dad, and her younger brother. The cruise was meant to be a celebratory vacation as Amy was about to begin a new job and just got a new apartment. Amy was described to be athletic, confident, had a smile that lit up the entire room, and definitely not the type to disappear without telling anybody. So here's the timeline of events and how Amy seemingly disappeared while on her celebratory cruise trip. So on March 23rd, 1998, the night before Amy disappeared, Amy goes to the ship's disco, which is basically like a club, with her brother Brad. Like I said, Amy was very confident, she had a vibrant personality, so she made a lot of friends during her stay on the cruise. So along with her brother Brad, she also went to the disco with some crew members, including a man by the name Yellow. So this man's name was not actually Yellow. He went by that name. His name was actually Alistair Douglas. During the night, they were seen dancing, vibing, having a grand old time. And Amy was reported to have some drinks. I mean, she was at the disco. She was having a good time. She was having fun. Not a crime at all. And then her and her brother returned back to their cabin at 3:30 a.m. approximately. So according to Amy's brother, Brad, he said that Amy was complaining about being a little sick. So they were out on the balcony just talking and catching up. Brad ended up going back inside the cabin to go to sleep while Amy stayed out on the balcony. Around 5:30 a.m., Amy's father wakes up in the middle of the night for some reason, and he glances over at the other bed where Amy and her brother Brad would be sleeping in, and he saw that Amy was missing. But as he looked around the room, he glanced over and then he saw the balcony and he saw Amy sleeping on it, allegedly. So he's like, you know, she's safe, she's home, I'm going back to sleep. Then he wakes up again at 6 a.m., just 30 minutes after he last woke up when he saw Amy sleeping on the balcony. However, this time around, there was no Amy. Her cigarettes and lighter were left behind, along with her shoes and a yellow shirt she was wearing that night. So her father just assumed that, you know, maybe she went downstairs to go and get a coffee because they were about to dock at the next island. He said Amy enjoyed taking photos, so maybe she couldn't sleep, got up, got some coffee, got her pictures in, so he thought really nothing of it. But when he went to go and find Amy, he could not find her and immediately alerted his wife, and they both went to go look for Amy. Very quickly, they both saw that Amy was indeed not on the cruise, at least to their knowledge. No one saw her leave her room. She left her passport, she left her keys, and all of her belongings. So, of course, like any normal family would, they went ahead and alerted the cruise ship members. But their reaction was very odd. They didn't alert passengers about Amy missing until the ship docked, which literally gave endless hours for someone to take Amy off the ship if they indeed did, or gave Amy the time to get off of that ship if she wanted to get off on her own. And what is so odd about this is that when you're on a cruise ship, you would think that your safety matters, or at least your family member's safety. So I found it quite odd that the cruise ship team did not even want to alert the entire cruise ship that there was a missing passenger because they said it was too early to make an announcement on the loud machines because it was 7 a.m. Are you kidding me? And not only that, like I said, when they said their daughter was missing, they still went ahead and docked that boat and opened up those doors to let anybody get off that dock, which is incredibly crazy to me. Quite frankly, if that was me and I went missing, I know my mother would have caused hell on that cruise ship. If it was me and my mother was missing, I would have caused hell, because what do you mean that you are not going to make an announcement that my family member is missing because it is too early? Excuse me? If I was on a cruise ship, and I have been on a cruise ship before, and there was somebody missing, I don't care if it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm sleeping. You should make that announcement so that we can make sure that person gets back with their family safely and as soon as possible. But that wasn't the only odd thing with these cruise ship members, okay? Amy vocalized to her family members that the cruise ship members were making her uncomfortable from the start of the trip. Amy allegedly stated that one crew member even asked her to get off the ship in Aruba with him. She politely declined. Another red flag was with the crew member Yellow we discussed earlier. When questioned, Yellow claimed that he went straight to bed that night. However, conflicting evidence showed that he was indeed not in bed, and he was in fact dancing with Amy that night. And eyewitnesses said that they saw Amy and Yellow get on an elevator together in the wee hours in the morning. So why are you lying about what time you went to bed if you claim you were not guilty? Another very odd component was that Amy's photos went missing. So you guys know when you guys are on a cruise ship, this probably isn't as common now because we all have our own cell phones and cameras, but a lot of the times, and even still to this day, people will take photos on the cruise ship. So you'll get your photos in and then you'll come and pick them up later. Well, that wasn't the case with the initial photos that Amy and her brother Brad took. Cruise ship photos of Amy mysteriously went missing when her mother went to go and pick the photos up. And it was quite strange because none of the other family members went and picked the photos up. So why would a stranger want a photo of another stranger? Due to this, Amy retook the photo with her brother that night that she went missing. And that is the last photo we have of Amy. And then, like I stated, the cruise ship line they were on was the Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean downplayed this entire circumstance. They waited hours to start searching for Amy, and they waited hours to make an announcement that she was missing. Security also locked down the ship late after hundreds of people already disembarked the ship. And just the crew members, even in the documentary when being interviewed, were so callous and dismissive of the entire situation. It was almost as if they did not care. And when the parents pleaded for them not to leave the island that they were on, the cruise members said, well, life goes on. People paid for this cruise, so we gotta go without your daughter. To this day, over 27 years later, Amy has yet to be found. So here are some possible theories as to what happened to Amy while she was on this cruise. The first theory is the obvious: accidental drowning. So this was dismissed immediately by the family. They claimed that Amy was a very strong swimmer and she was super athletic, so she would have been able to survive the currents had she fallen off the ship. They also stated that if she willingly went into the water, not falling off the ship, that wouldn't have been the case because she was terrified of night swimming. However, with this theory, no evidence supports this. And according to lots of experts in the Caribbean, they state that had she fallen off the ship, she would have definitely washed up on shore because of how strong the water is. Or at least some part of her, an article of clothing, a body part, something. Another theory is that she voluntarily disappeared, that she hopped off when the ship opened their doors and she just wanted to get away from her family. But once again, this is extremely unlikely because she was very close to her family and friends. She also made promises to a girlfriend she had at the time that alluded to the fact that she would indeed be back. She had a new job to look forward to, a new apartment. Her life was just starting, and it was starting in the right path. So how likely would it be that she just decided to just take off into the Caribbean? Another unlikely theory, at least in my opinion. And then, of course, the biggest conspiracy theory is that Amy was abducted and or trafficked. From the crew members' odd behavior, missing photos of her, and alleged sightings of Amy in the years to come of her being spotted in the Caribbean. Hear this. Numerous tourists in the Caribbean have reported to seeing a woman that looks exactly like Amy while they were in the Caribbean. And both times they spotted Amy, she was seemingly in the Caribbean sex trade. One time she was spotted in 1999 in an alleged brothel, and another time in 2005 in a bathroom in the Caribbean. The 1999 incident was when a Navy officer allegedly spoke to a woman who literally said, in quote, "My name is Amy Bradley. I need help." End quote. This was in Curacao, and right after, she acted like nothing happened when people were back around them. However, he chose not to say anything because he didn't want to lose his ranking in the Navy. Absolutely insane. I want to try and hear somebody out, especially in those circumstances. I mean, he said the person at the front door had a big pew pew, and he was not supposed to be there while he was serving. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and I think he should have done the right thing if someone literally said, "My name is Amy Bradley," and she was found missing in the Caribbean. Might I say also, this was a huge story. He claims he did not know at the time, but regardless if you didn't know, if someone tells you with an American accent that my name is so-and-so and I need help, I would think you would go and get help, or at least try to alert someone within the coming days when you're back in America, or alert the authorities in America. Something. But he did absolutely nothing. And the other time I told you was in 2005 when Amy was spotted in the bathroom with a woman. The woman was on vacation. She went to go use the bathroom, and she said she heard some sketchy men inside the bathroom yelling at a woman saying she needs to hurry up because she has a job to do and she better not try to run away. And the woman even asked, is it okay if she sees the kids after? The tourist said she spoke to the woman who was clearly being held against her will, and when she asked the woman what her name was, she said her name was Amy. And another huge and shocking piece of evidence was photos that got sent to Amy's family in 2005 anonymously. It was a photo that looked almost strikingly and scarily similar to Amy, but an Amy that didn't look like Amy anymore in terms of how she was dressed. It was very clearly a photo that was found on a sex worker website. The photo looked strikingly similar to Amy, and even the FBI agreed after using their advanced technology to see the similarities between the two images. However, authorities could not track the IP address on the website. So as I stated, to this day, Amy is still missing, and due to the negligence of the cruise ship members, she is missing to this day. I think if they actually worked a little bit harder and did not open those doors until they found Amy, she may still be here. But unfortunately, she has yet to be reunited with her family, and we don't even know if she's alive or not. Most of these sightings were back in the early 2000s, and we are now in 2025. So had she been trafficked, given her age now, it's very unlikely that she would have been seen as useful to these traffickers, and they may have gotten rid of her in ways I would not like to imagine. But I'm going to hold on to faith and hope, just like her family is, that she is indeed safe and will be found. This is an ad by BetterHelp. After hearing a story like this, a person going missing at sea, cover-ups, and the uncertainty of finding that loved one, it's a reminder that mental stress can come from so many different places. And while we can't always control our environment, we can definitely find ways to manage how we respond to it. Workplace stress has become one of the biggest reasons to the decline of mental health. 61% of the workforce is reporting higher than normal levels of work stress. And if that sounds like you, I promise you are not alone. This summer, I've been taking small steps myself in order to mitigate my mental health. I've been going on longer walks, laying by the pool, trying to spend less time on my phone, and just learning to take a breath when I'm feeling overstressed. But beyond that, therapy can make a huge difference. Whether it's learning how to set boundaries, managing burnout, or just dealing with the day-to-day things that stress me out, therapy has given me the tool to show up for myself, and it can do the same with you too. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform and has already helped over 5 million people. You can talk to licensed therapists from the comfort of your home, and if you ever want to switch your therapist, you can. No hassle at all. It's flexible and built to fit within your schedule. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can connect you to mental health therapists with a wide range of expertise. My listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp if they go on betterhelp.com/tonibryanne. That's BETTER.com/tonibryanne. Again, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Just over a decade later, another woman went missing without a trace, this time on a Disney cruise line, and her name is Rebecca Coriam. And if you thought things would be handled differently on this cruise line, trust and believe you better think again. Rebecca was a 24-year-old Disney crew member from the UK. She was working as a youth counselor aboard the Disney Wonder cruise line. She was known to be responsible, grounded, and very close to her family. And she had big plans after she got off this cruise. She previously worked with children, absolutely loved working children, and planned to continue doing so later. However, that opportunity never presented itself. So Rebecca went missing the same month Amy went missing, and nearly the same exact days. Amy went missing the early morning of March 24th, and Rebecca went missing the early morning of March 22nd. So the night of March 21st, Rebecca is seen socializing and texting her boyfriend, who was also a fellow crew member. In the wee early morning of March 22nd at 5:45 a.m., she's seen on security footage in the ship's staff area looking distressed and talking on a phone. She ends the call, puts her hand on her face, and is clearly upset. And then she walks away. This is the last time anyone saw her. Later that day, when Rebecca didn't report to her shift, a ship-wide search began, but nothing was found. Her key card, ID, and personal items were still in her cabin, so that led many to believe she wasn't planning on leaving anywhere. But her flip-flops were found near the crew pool, which Disney suggested meant that she fell overboard. But there are major problems with this theory. Number one, the security footage is conveniently vague. She's clearly visibly distressed, but Disney never released full footage or context. We never found out who she was talking to, why she was upset, or what exactly were they discussing. There were no answers given. As for the flip-flop story, that made absolutely no sense. Her flip-flops were allegedly found by the pool, but they weren't her size. They weren't even the brand she wore, almost as if they were planted there. So many found that to be quite odd. Number three, the third red flag. Disney controlled the investigation. The ship was registered in the Bahamas, so Disney was able to bring one singular Bahamian police officer, and that was the officer that investigated the circumstances of what happened. He spent one day on board and interviewed 0 crew members. How are you not interviewing crew members, especially when her boyfriend was a crew member? The fourth red flag was that her family expressed that they felt dismissed. Rebecca's parents said Disney gave them rehearsed statements, delayed responses, and refused to answer basic questions questions. They were told she probably fell overboard, but the ship had very high railings. And not only that, Rebecca was reportedly very athletic, which made her very unlikely to just slip and fall off a ship. And then the fifth red flag was that witnesses' statements were dismissed. Some passengers claimed that they saw a woman that looked very closely to Rebecca arguing with a man near a restricted area on the cruise ship, and they stated this was shortly before she disappeared. Others say they saw a young woman being escorted by the crew members, and that this woman looked very distressed. And as you guys probably thought, yes, Disney denied it all. And to this day, Rebecca is still missing. It has now been 13 years and we have not seen a trace of Rebecca. But here are some theories that people have come up with on why and how she disappeared while working on a Disney cruise ship. Number one, of course, the accidental fall. This is what Disney stated, but there isn't far enough evidence to implicate this. Then we have the unaliving theory. Many people have speculated that she may have unalived herself due to the state that she was in. She was clearly in a state of distress and very upset from the footage that we saw. However, there is no history of mental illness in her family, and her family said that this was very unlikely. They don't believe that she would have done that, and they want people to stop alluding to that fact. And then lastly, what many people do believe, foul play was involved. Many believe she either witnessed something she should not have, or was harmed by someone on board. Most likely a fellow crew member, maybe the boyfriend. But like I stated, to this day, we still do not know what happened to Rebecca, another woman that vanished in thin air while on a cruise ship. Clearly you're not safe if you're a passenger or a worker. Rebecca vanished under a system built to protect the cruise ship line and not people's lives. And y'all, that is not the last story we're gonna speak about. Now we're gonna be discussing the story of George Smith IV. George Smith was a 26-year-old from Connecticut and had just married his wife, Jennifer Hagel. The cruise was their honeymoon, a Mediterranean voyage that they had dreamed of for many years. And George was described to be charismatic, outgoing, good-looking, and was said to be very well liked on board. But, of course, let's get into the timeline of events when it came to George's disappearance. So the evening of July 4th, George and Jennifer were partying with other passengers and some crew. They were said to be drinking heavily at the ship's casino and later invited others back to their room. Then we get into the wee hours of the morning. And as I'm sure it's very obvious, I think we need to stop walking around cruise ships past midnight because everyone is seemingly disappearing very, very early in the morning. So around 4 a.m., passengers in nearby rooms reportedly heard a thud and yelling. There were loud noises, almost as if there was a commotion happening. George's fiancée Jennifer was found passed out in the hallway, but George was just gone. And most shockingly, blood was found smeared on the awning below his balcony. And then later that day, a large bloodstain was discovered on the side of the ship, and George was never seen again. So another cruise story and some red flags with this case. So number one, the blood evidence was ignored and was also removed very quickly. The blood trail very clearly indicated that something violent had happened that night, but cruise ship staff cleaned up parts of it before authorities even arrived. And not only that, y'all get this, the FBI did not board the ship until 5 days later. You know how much evidence is gone within 5 days? Like, are you for real? But that's cruise ships for you. Number two, in terms of evidence disappearing, George's cabin was accessed after he vanished. There are reports that some crew members or even just some nosy guests were entering in and out of George's room. Once again, this is contaminating evidence or allowed individuals to tamper with evidence. Another very obvious red flag, but when it comes to cruises, like I said, the rules seem to be very blurred. Another third red flag was that there were a bunch of conflicting stories. 3 men seen partying with George gave 3 different stories, and these were known and thought to be primary suspects. I mean, they were one of the last ones seen with him, but no charges were filed on either of them. The fourth red flag was that surveillance footage was never released. Despite this being literally a massive cruise ship, key footage that would have given us a lot of answers as to what happened to George and even his wife, who was found laid out in the hallway, was seemingly lost or was said to be unavailable. Once again, cruise ship lines making up their own rules as they go because once again, when you're out at sea, it's basically a lawless territory. And then the fifth red flag, y'all may have been asking about the wife, okay? I know I sure was. Jennifer was heavily criticized and was believed to have been the one that harmed her husband. As I stated, Jennifer was found drunk and disoriented tainted, and some suspected foul play, but that was quickly cleared on her end. And she eventually settled with the Royal Caribbean, reportedly in exchange for signing an NDA, so she wasn't able to give out any information as to what happened that night or any new information that she found. So the entire case is very sketchy and honestly damn right creepy. So of course there's a multitude of theories, as with every case. The first one is that he accidentally fell off because he was drunk. Now this could very well be the case, but there was a lot of blood found, so that clearly should have been debunked from the beginning. The second theory was that he was pushed or thrown overboard, which I think may be the most believable theory. I mean, based on the blood and the timeline, many believe that he was assaulted potentially and then he was put overboard, probably because he was acting or behaving drunk and people got annoyed with him, or maybe owed somebody money. I mean, the 3 men he was hanging out with, they give me sketchy vibes. And then the last theory was that this was a cover up by the cruise. Theories suggest that the cruise line prioritized their own reputation over getting actual justice, which when it comes to these cruise lines and all these stories I told you, wouldn't be too far-fetched. George didn't vanish quietly. There was blood, there was commotion, there was noise, there were reports, there were witnesses. But just like Amy and Rebecca, the people in power moved quickly, not to find the truth, but to cover their own asses. Because clearly on a cruise ship, the truth is always bad for business. And 20 years later, there still was no body found, no new evidence, so George's family still have not received the closure that I know they so desperately want and need. So as we can see, cruise ships notoriously take a while to alert authorities when someone has gone missing or if something has gone awry. Security cameras often don't catch the incident that happened at hand, and allegedly there may be some trafficking going on these cruise ships. That's all operated by the cruise line. And when we're talking about international waters, we're talking about lawless waters. This episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. Let's be real, we spend too much time worrying about big and dramatic things. Getting stranded at sea, creepy stories about cruise ships, basically all the stuff I just talked about in today's video. But sometimes we ignore the small things that matter too, like that dentist appointment you've been meaning to book, or that yearly physical that has turned into a 3-year streak of not going. If you've been putting it off, I get it. Life gets incredibly busy. Trust, that's something I learned very quickly in my 20s. It's not always easy to find a good doctor or one that takes your insurance, or if you do find the one that takes your insurance, it's difficult to find an appointment. And you have to hope that that appointment is at least nearby so you can get back to work after you go to the doctor. That's where ZocDoc comes in. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search for high quality in-network doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dermatology to primary care, dental, and so many more. You can filter by insurance, read verified reviews, and book an appointment right from your phone or your laptop. And I'm not talking months out. You can usually find one within 24 to 72 hours. Heck, sometimes even the same day. I use it and you should too. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Just go on ZocDoc.com/Toni to book an appointment today. That's ZocDoc.com/Toni. So ships registered in countries like Panama, Liberia, and the Bahamas are called flags of convenience. Flag of convenience refers to a business practice where a ship's owner registers their vessel in a country other than their own, often to take advantage of lower cost and less stringent regulations. So in doing this, this limits FBI and US jurisdictions. Even if you're an American passenger, the company gets to decide when they want to report crimes, and victims are often told there is nothing we can do. Very similar to Amy Bradley's case when her family alerted the crew members that there was something going on and their daughter was missing. So even if your cruise line is based in Miami, the ship might technically be a Bahamas flagged vessel, which means it falls under Bahamas law and not US law. More specifically, when it's in the international waters. So how exactly does this affect crime at sea or affect you if you are on a cruise ship? Let's say you're assaulted or your partner goes missing or there's some suspicious death. You would expect the FBI or local investigators to investigate what had happened. Well, guess what? Wrong. Unless the victim or suspect is American, the crime occurred within 12 nautical miles of the US, or the cruise started and ended in the US has limited jurisdiction. So the country who investigates is the country that the ship is registered in. And very often, they don't have the resources, legal infrastructure, or incentive to do a full investigation. And sometimes, a lot of times, no investigation vacation happens at all. So basically, once that ship pulls away from that US port, you're not just on vacation anymore. You're literally in a legal loophole the size of the ocean. I mean, think of George. After George went missing, the cruise ship just cleaned up the blood and said that he fell overboard. Royal Caribbean didn't call the FBI right away. I mean, they waited 5 days, nearly a week, and they even let passengers off the ship and acted as if nothing happened. Why, you might ask? Because the ship was registered in the Bahamas. So Royal Caribbean was not legally obligated to alert the FBI until they wanted to. And once again, the Royal Caribbean is what Amy was on as well. So take this in mind when you're going on cruise ships, okay? Cruise companies have full discretion on when to report a crime, whether to preserve or destroy evidence, or whether to notify local authorities. They're not actual law enforcement, but they're gatekeepers onto how and when they report crimes. This creates a massive conflict of interest because they're more worried about PR than getting justice for their cruise members on board. Cruise members and passengers, should I say. According to the US Department of Transportation data, cruise lines only have to report certain crimes like sexual assault, homicide, or missing persons. But that's just a fraction of what actually happens on board. And internal investigations can be buried, manipulated, or resolved in-house with NDAs and money. And here's the crazy part. There's no centralized, transparent system on tracking crimes that happen on board. So we don't really know all the crimes that actually happen. And also, according to the US Department of Transportation, cruises may feel like safe and family-friendly getaways, but get this, the data tells a completely different story. Also, according to the US Department of Transportation, over half of all crimes reported on cruises are sexual assault. And the vast majority of victims, women and girls, with a large chunk of them being under the age of 18. The perpetrators are often fellow passengers, but also there have been cases where it has been crew members, like allegedly with Amy Bradley. And mind you, the crew members are people that live on that ship, so they know that ship like the back of their hand. They know exactly where the hidden cameras are and where the secret ways to go are. And when it comes specifically to sexual assault, a lot of these crimes go unreported, and that's due to lack of medical care on board. I mean, rape kits may not be available or they're not properly preserved. Evidence gets lost quickly or isn't saved at all, and most survivors are never told their legal rights, especially if that ship is outside of the US jurisdiction. And there have been some reports of some victims even being blamed, being told in quote, not to ruin the vacation for others. Or, once again, they're given NDAs and hush money. Cruises are the only vacation where you can get assaulted, go missing, or be found dead and your case never gets investigated. Because once again, at sea, corporations are making the rules. And for them, since it does not affect them, silence is always better than justice. Oh, and also when it comes to sexual assault, I also want to add that 60% of those sexual assaults are committed by crew members. So it's more than half that is done by them, the people that know the boat like the back of their hand. And what's also terrifying about these cruise ships when it comes to medical issues is that typically cruise ships only have one doctor, so people have died from delayed treatments. Medical rooms aren't equipped for serious situations, so they're really equipped for if you had a boo-boo, or maybe you need a cast, or you rolled your ankle, not if you literally got stabbed while you're on board. And charges for basic care on the cruise ship can be in the thousands. Y'all know cruise ships are cheap. I've been on one. Y'all see them drinking packages. They are hoarding the liquor, okay? Cruises are marketed as escapes from reality, but for many people, it became their nightmare. When you're on a cruise, you're not in America any longer. You're in their world, okay? That cruise ship is now your world, and it operates how they want it to operate. So I say that all to say, because I've been on a cruise before, but be safe, be careful, don't ever wander off alone, especially as a woman. Stay in groups, because cruises can very much so be deadly. And we see that all the time, especially in these cases that I shared today. So with knowing all this information, would you guys get on a cruise? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's get this discussion going. But you guys, that is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I know this was a lengthy one, but we all love a good deep dive, okay? Like I stated, would you guys go on a cruise ship? Have you gone on one? Have you had a horror story on a cruise ship? What do you think about these cases? Do you believe these cases are true? Do you believe the cruise? Do you believe the people? What do you think happened? Let's get the discussion going on in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for your love and support. Don't forget to check out ZocDoc and BetterHelp. And yeah, I will see you all in my very next video. Please be sure to follow me on all my social media accounts. It's Toni Bryanne TV across all platforms. Follow The Decision Podcast and follow Toni Bryanne TV, the podcast. I love and I appreciate you guys all so very much, and I will see you all in my very next video. Love you guys. Bye. Mwah.
Taking you in this moment.